Good afternoon, my peoples. Thank you for stepping into the Foul Play Land with me. As always, I am Sir Foul Player of Brooklyn. Wanted to talk about a Democratic candidate for this upcoming election in 2024, and that is Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Robert Kennedy Jr. is the son of Robert Kennedy. If you guys don't know, Robert Kennedy was the brother of John F. Kennedy Jr. or John F. Kennedy, I'm sorry. But he was also a presidential hopeful as well. John F. Kennedy was assassinated while he was the president in Dallas, Texas. His brother was a district attorney while he was the president, in addition to being a presidential hopeful after his brother was assassinated. Unfortunately, Robert Kennedy was also assassinated while he was campaigning to become president. Now, fast forward to the year 2024, Robert Kennedy Jr. is running for the Democratic candidate he's running for president as a Democrat. I don't believe polls, like poll numbers and whatnot, with the exception of like the barometer of information that they're trying to hold back. Like if they like, for instance, like right now, like polling says that Joe Biden and Trump are like neck and neck, like in polling. I don't believe that one iota. One, because Joe Biden doesn't inspire anybody. Two, when they ran in this past election, Joe Biden, it was pretty close. You know, don't let people tell you otherwise, but as far as electoral votes go, even the voting numbers, though I have my suspicions, and I'll keep it at that, it was still pretty close. Like the night of the election, probably about 10, Trump was leading in a lot of the states that are important, like Pennsylvania, Georgia, not so much Arizona. Wisconsin, I believe he was leading as well. But that election was still really close. In spite of the fact that Joe Biden is an extremely unpopular candidate now as of 2023 because of the job performance that he's done, and a lot of people have done an about face on Joe Biden in spite of them being like anti-Trump. They'll still tell you that the poll, like, so if you go by the last election, it was pretty much neck and neck. Now today, like in spite of Joe Biden's popularity waning, in spite of Trump gaining Black support, Hispanic support, independents are leaping over to Trump. They still tell you that their polling numbers present day are neck and neck. I only say that to say that I think poll numbers are bogus, Rasmussen, whatever you want to go to. A lot of the poll numbers are bogus. Having said that, by most polls right now, Robert Kennedy Jr. is at like 9% against Joe Biden as far as the Democrat like candidate. But Robert Kennedy Jr. also gets no TV traction. Nobody invites him to talk on TV. His stance is anti-mandate or anti-drinking the tea, if you will, the tea that they made everybody drink in 2021 and 2020. His stance is anti that. He's also a scientist. His research is, for the most part, based in the tea that they made us drink in 2021 or try to compel us to drink in 2021 and 2022. The ones that they make you take to send your kids to school. He's anti that. basically, and that's his field of expertise. He's actually written books. He's been very critical of Fauci, even before this run of tea that they made everybody drink in 2021. But I believe that a lot of the reasoning behind him not getting like TV time is strongly associated to that, in addition to the fact that the media does everything they can to prop up Joe Biden. They do everything they can not to talk negatively about Joe Biden when they have tons to cover there. I mean, like Saturday Night Live, the comedy show, or what was once a great comedy show, would do like skits with Bill Clinton, and would do skits with Obama sometimes even. They would do skits all the time with George Bush, and they were hilarious. But when they had a candidate like Joe Biden, who, I mean, like the jokes are aplenty, like with just the stupidity he does whenever the limited times that he does do an interview or talks to the press, the fact that he falls all the time, the fact that he looks funny and his mouth is always open and agape, like he looks confused. His wife's like all over the place too, like pushy, speaking for Joe Biden and cover like in these public events. Saturday Night Live chose not to make fun of Joe Biden like in a comedic fashion for the past couple of years. I mean, it coincides with Saturday Night Live also falling down the crapper. Like, how many people that you know watch Saturday Night Live? So that's just one example of the media not giving negative coverage to Joe Biden. They do everything they could not to do that. I'm going to keep harping on that on this channel as much as I could, because it's the truth. If you go to any, like for instance, and this also bleeds over to big tech. Look at any video that I've posted in the past, and if it has anything to do with Hunter Biden or Joe Biden, those videos are always very low in numbers. And it's not because people aren't looking necessarily, but I also think that the algorithm does stuff to steer you away from that, which, I mean, it's not going to stop me from reporting on these things. Having said that, though, the fact that Robert Kennedy Jr. has 9% in terms of these fake polls, it's in spite of the fact, again, that he gets no good media coverage. People look at him like he's some sort of conspiracy nut just because he's taking a stance against drinking the mandated tea. But he's still running. He's still running to become president. I'm not like nuts about him as the president. I'm only for one candidate, and that's the MAGA candidate. So he's still running. He's still a popular candidate because of his family background. Also, you could allude to the fact that both his uncle, John F. Kennedy Jr., when he was president, was assassinated. His dad, Robert Kennedy Sr., when he was running for president, was assassinated. His polling numbers, though they're low, according to these polls that I think are doctored anyway, are still at nearly 10%. They're at 9%. He's requested for a Secret Service detail, which, according to him, you have to do it through the current president. So he's requested the Joe Biden administration to provide him with a security detail. They've rejected him from acquiring a security detail. So while he was campaigning, there was a gentleman that tried to show up to his event, acting like he was part of his own security detail. See, like, since he hasn't been provided a Secret Service detail, he hasn't been provided protection as a candidate. He's had to since hire his own private security. The private security, they go by GBDA, an acronym GDBA, and it stands for, I'm going by his statement, I'll get to that in a minute. I think it's a guy's name. But somebody showed up to one of his events acting like they were part of his security detail. Supposedly, they showed up with 2 firearms, extra ammunition, a U.S. Marshal badge, in addition to acting like they were part of his team, his protective team, if you will. I'm going to read a tweet by Mario Nawfal, and it says, breaking, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. assassination scare. Heavily armed man detained. So he was thwarted from this attempt. A heavily armed man who posed as RFK's security was arrested at a campaign rally. This comes after RFK's unsuccessful request for Secret Service protection since declaring candidacy in April. I am the first president, and this is a quote from RF Kennedy Jr., quote, I am the first presidential candidate in history to whom the White House has denied a request for protection. I am still entertaining a hope that President Biden will allow me Secret Service protection. Both RFK's father and uncle were assassinated, so this attempt is severely distressing for the Kennedy family. This is a detail as to what happened. RFK security detail did not recognize the man, who was heavily armed in protective gear and with U.S. Marshal badge, and detained him until the police arrived on the scene. Following the arrival of police, the unarmed man was then arrested. The man is now likely to be charged with impersonating a police officer or a federal agent. RFK Jr. The man wearing two shoulder holsters. Oh, there we go. The man wearing two shoulder holsters with loaded pistols and spare ammunition magazine was carrying a U.S. Marshal badge on a lanyard and belt clip federal ID. He identified himself as my security detail. Armed GDBA team members, again, GBDA is the protective detail that RFK Jr. has to pay out of pocket for, since he hasn't been afforded a Secret Service detail, although he's running for president. Armed GBDA team members moved quickly to isolate and detain the man until LAPD arrived. Now, this is a statement from the man, Mario Nawfal, who shared this tweet. In July, RFK Jr.'s request for Secret Service protection was denied by the White House. This is a quote by RFK Jr. again. Since the assassination of my father in 1968, candidates for president are provided Secret Service protection, but not me. According to the U.S. Secret Service website, they only provide protection to presidential candidates starting 120 days prior to the general election, which means RFK Jr. won't be eligible for protection until July 2024. Analysts also note that RFK will never get Secret Service protection as he is not considered a, quote, major candidate. It's important to note, however, Obama was granted Secret Service protection early in the campaign, same as what Kennedy is seeking, as he's faced unique threats as a black man with a realistic chance to become president. Now they're asking, should RFK Jr. Get early protection due to his family's history of assassinations? While the Biden administration will the Biden administration offer RFK Secret Service protection? And that was the end of the quote. I'm going to show a video on the screen from my cell phone of the man that was arrested. There's a man bun. Take a look at that bag really quick before you guys get into it.
wait. Hey, Will, find out how long until. Yep.
So that's the dude that was trying to sneak into the event. RFK Jr., one of the things too that he's mentioned in interviews is that the assassination of his uncle, John F. Kennedy Jr., was coordinated or done by the three-letter agencies within the country's policing apparatus. I'm not going to try to name names, but it's still pretty grimy that this is happening. RFK Jr. would be a really popular candidate, with the exception of the fact that he speaks funny. Like, I think he has some sort of issue, like with his throat or something. So he speaks kind of like as if he's trying to catch his breath. But he would be an extremely popular candidate, primarily because Joe Biden is probably one of the worst candidates I've ever seen pushed out. Nobody likes Joe Biden. Most of the people that like Joe Biden or that are pushing for Joe Biden, that you get down to the nitty gritty as to their political reasoning, and it'll end up with, oh, I just don't like Trump. But they won't tell you, I don't like Joe Biden. George Bush was a pretty unpopular candidate going into his second term. Not many, like, there wasn't a lot of fanfare to push George Bush out of office when push came to shove at the midnight hour of his second term vote, although he was unpopular. So the fact that Trump was unpopular in the 2020 election shouldn't propel Joe Biden September 16th, 2023, today's date. So given the fair, like an equal shot or a fair slate, I'm pretty sure that Robert Kennedy Jr. would have way better numbers than Joe, or would have equal to Joe Biden's numbers in this election coming up now. But again, he's getting no TV time. He gets dismissed by most of the pundits, the election pundits, but he's extremely in great shape. He speaks really well, even though he has his issue with in terms of how he speaks. It sounds like he's wheezing almost. I'm sorry, somebody came to the front of my house, so I'm trying to see why the hell they parked near my driveway. I'm very nosy like that. Always be in tune as to what's happening outside of your house, because I don't need nobody trying to run up on me talking that what up now. But RFK Jr. is being kiboshed. In addition to, worst case scenario, he could be being left out to be assassinated. This attempt, like a guy showing up, I believe this was in Los Angeles. So it's not like this is a carry state like that, or somewhere where you would be carrying out in the open. It's not like it is in Texas and some dude showed up and he just happened to be carrying 2 weapons. No, this happened in Los Angeles, if I memory serves me right. And this dude shows up with two guns. And this guy wasn't like, he didn't look like no scrub either. He looked like he was in good shape. I don't know. It's very concerning. But in the sense of like what's happened with their family history, should he have a Secret Service detail? I don't know what you guys think. I think he should. Even though they're going to try to chalk it up to the fact that he's not a popular candidate, but he's not a popular candidate because the powers that be, the machinations that run all these things, The same people that are choosing to give Joe Biden very sensitive coverage and give him very softball questions and whatnot are also giving RFK Jr. zero in terms of media presence. There's also some good RFK Jr. interviews. He had a good one with Matt Hoffa, which is a online or YouTube hip hop podcast, if you will. He had a good one with Tucker Carlson. I'm not really in tune with him because of his stance on Israel. Like, a lot of people are very politically, and it's not like a make or break thing for me, but it's almost like you hold nothing in terms of like with Trump because of your push for giving aid to Israel financially. I don't think it helps. Like, Israel is probably one of the biggest countries in terms of spying on the U.S. It is the biggest country in terms of spying on the U.S. After China. They're always neck and neck, but China compared to Israel, like, Israel's economy is largely run by the aid that we give them, especially militarily. But they use that against us. China's economy is run by what China makes. And although they're competing against us, the fact that it's always 1 or 2 between Israel and China as to the people that spy on the U.S., to me, that's concerning. When we give Israel most of their military aid, or the ability to run their military, is largely coming from the U.S., not from what they produce. But RFK Jr. is very pro-Israel in that sense. Trump is pro-Israel too. They all are, honestly, but it seems like RFK Jr., when he gets a chance, he's kind of like gushy about the issue. That's concerning. But still, he's a very good presidential candidate. I always think that it'd be dope if RFK Jr. was Trump's vice president, even though they're running on 2 different sides of the aisle. I think that would be like a slam dunk vice presidential pick. I mean, that's me in like a fantasy world. My number 1 Trump vice presidential pick is Byron Donalds. I said that in the past on this channel, the congressman out of Florida, if I remember correctly. But Donald Trump's, RFK Jr. is still a heck of a candidate, given the good chance. I mean, in terms of the tea drinking, he'd be the only Democrat in Congress, Senate, the presidential seat, vice presidential seat, not pushing for the tea drinking. Tea drinking is waning in popularity. How many people are telling you that they took their 7th booster? 0. Or their 6th booster? They'd be up to, if they were so gun-ho about drinking the tea, they would have drank boosters every 6 months. So they would be up to like 7 right now. How many people are up to their 7th? Not many. Not even the biggest true believer, And they're still trying to push it now, like as far as a new version of the flu coming out. But there's not many true believers that are still lingering around saying, we got to drink the tea. Well, RFK Jr. is on the side of not drinking the tea or not pushing for more teas, having a body's natural ability to fight off most diseases. I think that would be popular with a lot of Democrats. Not all Democrats think alike, even though a lot of liberals are very brainwashed in my eyes, especially in the past couple of years, but not all of them are very cool with the drinking of the tea. I know because of conversations I have with people in my real life. And RFK Jr., if he's not for the tea, I think he'd be a breath of fresh air for the Democratic Party. But hopefully he remains safe. Hoping that Wi-Fi, I keep losing out. But I'm gonna cut this short now. Prayers up for RFK Jr. Hopefully this doesn't happen again to him or any other presidential candidate. But with that, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you for stepping into the Foul Play Line with me. Peace.